is up, everyone? This is Ernie from Dice Holes. Um, Trying to get the right content up because I want us to do really make it at least look well for what we're doing. I need to get a better microphone, stuff like that. But we're still going to be putting things up. The website's going to have, or the page is going to have HeroClix, Destiny, board games, etc. But Destiny's been the hot button lately. So what I kind of want to go over right now is what everyone's complaining about, as far as what needs to be banned and what doesn't need to be banned. So one of the first ones we'll talk about is Poe. Poe is interesting. I mean, in the first time it came out, it wasn't too much of a big deal. But at the same time, it was able to use just like normal, use the special symbol and then use any card on there. But a huge difference is there's now a lot more. But also, what happened was Maz came out, so the Maz Poe thing happened, and for anyone that lives under a rock that plays Destiny, I'm sure you know what Maz does. She resolves two dice, and what Poe players do: throw Poe dice out, then you do whatever, they go, then Maz goes, and then if she's lucky, she gets a focus it, does special. You just load your deck full of all kinds of nasty dice things. So people are saying, and I understand where people want things fixed because it seems like later on down the line it can make it worse and worse and worse, but that's when things get rotated out and stuff like that. But Fantasy Flight doesn't normally do crazy changes. They're definitely not going to change the sides of the dice. They're definitely not going to change the values of the characters, the values of what it does do for 3 cost for the. I'm sorry, 1 cost for the 3 damage. They're not going to do that. But what I could see them doing, a lot of people have said this, and I don't mind it, that Poe can only do it to vehicles. Now everyone's going to start that plays Poe Maz are gonna freak out and be like, "No, that's not fair." Blah blah blah. I think it's kind of fair because Poe is mainly worked around vehicles. It says Ace Pilot in his name. So with that being said, it makes sense for me if they do vehicles, and we got a nice set of vehicles for him to use right now. And he still will be pretty crazy with Maz. Maz, I don't think needs to change that much because I've played Maz. I've seen Maz played with Luke, and it works fairly well. Nothing crazy. I've done Jin and Maz, and that's kind of fun. I'm not crazy unstoppable. But again, yeah. So it's one of those things that I kind of, and it's weird the point values because he's 14, 18. I think he should have been one of the 15, 20s, but they're saying about that him just working with vehicles kind of makes sense, and it kind of brings balance to the force, if you will, of how his card would work, and not let him just dig out rocket launchers and things like that, because it's kind of odd. But don't be wrong, we have decks where Jabba's throwing around lightsabers, so I mean, at the same time, you kind of are like, yeah, it's flavor to an extent, but so with Poe, I think that's the only way you can help not make that deck be so broken. Because I've copied and pasted it from people I played against on TTS. I've never built it in my own life. I try to stay away from meta decking. If I ever have meta, I'd like it to be my own creation or somewhat off someone else's. If it's like someone else's, maybe I did my own thing to it and I didn't know about it. It just seems funner that way. But that's me. A lot of people just will play what wins or what's really good. But to be honest, Poe Maz is gross. I played one game where I didn't even get to play, and I feel like the guy wasn't even playing. It literally kind of plays itself. But that is one thing that can help it a little bit. Other than that, I don't see what else they can do. They may change Maz to where Maz would only work on yellow. But we'll get back to Maz when we look at the next set. Right now, Ray, people have issues with the fact that Ray can do ambush, 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 and then on top of her ambushes, when she's throwing them on, if they're a weapon or an upgrade, onto her, after a player plays an upgrade on this character, you may take additional action. So just like how you can't ambush an ambush card because it's already ambush, people are thinking that the wording should just say she's an ambush. She makes cards an ambush. Um, the only problem with that is I think it takes the flavor out of what she's doing, and she's pretty weak. I mean, she's a one damage, a +2, but I mean, if we get rid of that, it's really gonna hurt her. It does get annoying with the whole stacking, and you're like, all right, what did you just do? You lay down 3 weapons, and yes, I have 3 more turns after this, and 2 of those were ambushes, so I still have 1 more ambush on top of that. It gets really, really, really messy. I guess I can see them changing it to after you play an upgrade on this character, you may make make that card an ambush. So if it's an ambush gun or whatever, nothing gets added to it. But I also worry that Ray basically becomes worthless. Um, it gets tricky, but Ray is not that great of a character to play. But what makes her good is that. But I do agree that maybe her point value should have been higher for her ability. That makes a little more sense to me. Maybe 11, 14, something like that. But Ray's good for 9, 12. It's exciting to be able to throw her on teams because you have room for her. But I think I could see her getting a little nerfed if people keep complaining. I don't know if it'll happen. Again, Fantasy Flight is different. We get ban lists for everything nowadays. Magic has it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon just announced theirs. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, I do know one thing that everyone's kind of been talking about that they don't like. I don't think anything really is crazy in this set that people were like, that's broken. Because I don't think. Well, here's one that people don't really like, and I understand why. Because if it's set up right, it's all bad. It's a trap. I know a lot of people got annoyed with it. They hated it. It's a trap dex. Because basically, if you have enough guns equipped and the other person has a gun showing and you have the money for it and you have the guns out there, it's kind of GG's all around. It's going to happen. People were really upset about this during the first set, but I think now there's so many things that are more on being watched at than it's a trap. We won't see too much come from it. I don't think we're going to see that take any kind of hit at all. So we already know that Return of the Jedi had a influence on the Smuggler card to be changed. Hyperloop got changed, or Hyperspace Jump. Let's see. Where is villain? Forest Choke. Here we go. Sith Holocron. You know what? I don't hear many people complain about that much. But just recently, the last maybe couple weeks, I've heard people mention things about the Sith Holocron. I love the Sith Holocron. Yes, it's kind of like cheap thing to do to throw it down, but you got number one, you got to roll it. There is 2, but there is 2 blanks. But with the 2 blanks, there's a lot in Villain Blue decks that work with blanks. If you notice, this new set added a lot, and there was already some of the others. So if you're doing things like that, there are things to work around with your higher risk dice to the chances of rolling a. My hair is getting all like messed up and stuck in there. Oh, my bad. There's higher risk of rolling blanks with certain dice, and there's ways to resolve around that, and you can work with that. But I think what people don't like is that the fact you could throw these on Tuskens, you could throw them on whatever. And also, I've heard people don't know why the Jedi's haven't got one, and they feel it's very uneven. And I guess I can see that to a point. I mean, in all fairness, yellow heroes have second chance, while villains just got Rise Again, and it's very expensive to get. But again, it just all goes into play. What does what? We've got no real love for blue heroes, to my knowledge. I think there's Rejuvenate and then neutral Illusion, and I think Illusion's not that great either. It's okay, but with Vibro Knives these days, Unblockable lightsaber sometimes it doesn't matter. It goes straight through. So there's another card that I've heard people recently just started talking about, and they were saying that it should be blue character only. Um, Now, I don't think this is on top of a list at all. Could it be done? Yeah. Would it be justified? I understand because it seems like that's how it would work. It seems like they almost forgot that. But to be honest, if it doesn't change, it's not going to hurt the game really. Um, I think other than that, that's about it in this set that I remember people bringing up. Now we go to cards Spirit of Rebellion, and we're on Star Wars Destiny Deckbuilder.com. So we got a few things that I know people are a little upset with. One is FN Trooper. I love FN. I think people think he should cost more. That's the only problem. Again, Fantasy Flight is not going to change the cost on people. So will they nerf something? Maybe. I don't think so. There's too many things going on. If they do nerf or errata something, it's going to be like 2 or 3 cards. They're not going to waste their time with it. But I get it because Finn could get gross if you're throwing a weapon after weapon after weapon in there. It just it gets nasty. It gets nasty and it gets really bad. So I understand. But to be honest, the thing comes down to it again of him being so cheap. I think that's the biggest issue. The fact you can play him at 10, and to be honest, you don't need him at full. He doesn't need to be elite because the fact him throwing weapons in is his job. That's what he does. When you're playing him, you're going to be using his ability more than his die. So it makes sense. You're barely even tapping him when you are playing. So people have been mainly complaining about they wanted, him to be more points or whatever. I think it's fine because in my experience playing him, watching people play him, um, he's not invincible. He could die easy. Unfortunately, it depends on who you have him with. If you're playing blue with him, there are rise against, but that doesn't work on him. If there's yellow with him, you can get armor plating. That's not great. Again, with vibro blades out there and stuff like that. And not to mention, it only blocks 2. So with Finn, I don't see anything happening to him. But I get a little bit of irritation with him. But it's a fun card. I don't see people calling for an errata on this, but people complain way too much about Palpatine. He's 15 health. Now everyone complains about a lot, like a lot. That 15 is too much sometimes, or can't believe I gotta go through this one character. But if you're playing him elite, you're using 28 points of your build. It's ridiculous. Not to mention, every time I usually play Palpatine, I'm playing someone like Plut, or I'm playing, I don't know, who else would I be playing? Something yellow maybe, but usually villain, and I end up getting prized possessions on him, and I've crime lorded him very easy multiple times. You get lucky if you pull out his rise again, for 5 credits, you're already good to go. He's not as bad as people make him out to be. It's just all depends on the draw and how they can get themselves out of situations and how you can get out of it. If you have dice removal, that's huge. If he's paired with yellow, an Enforcer, or even a Tusken Raider, it's not bad because they can put fast hands on him. But when it gets bad is when he gets the Electroshock, the Holocron out there, and he's able to roll in Force Lightnings and things like that. That's when it gets rough, but at least with Force Lightning, they put a charge on a lot of those, so he has to have resources to do that. I don't see anything being done with Palpatine. He's a good character. If you play him elite, yes, you can deal 10 damage on our first turn. Will it happen? Most games it's not. People are going to have ways to get rid of it, and on top of it, they're not guaranteed they're going to roll 3s on each die, and resolving it that way. So I hear it complaining about it, but I don't see anything getting done about it, to be honest with you. Force Lightning again. It's got 2 specials on it, and I don't see an issue with it. People just don't like that it gets rolled in, basically. I see no complaints about any of these.
Personal Shield, Vibro Blades, Mon Mothma. All that looks good. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Handcraft Force Hill, Chewbacca, Jin, Maz, the Pirate Queen. Let's go with the Pirate Queen. So, back to what we're talking about with Maz, basically. What kind of ad is that over there? Flagpole. All right. Basically what I said, what I think what they would do if they did change anything would be she could only resolve yellow. But other than that, she's fine. It does make it nasty with what Poe does, just because how much damage can come out. So that is an issue I can see still coming up. How much Maz and Poe dominate a lot of the tournament scenes, and people feel dirty playing it. Most guys that do play it just to get the mad or get the win, they'll tell you it's like, yeah, he had to play that to win, but that's kind of what you do because you literally don't play. You just let it do what you got to do. Can it be beat? Yeah, of course. People are like, good scrub. Yeah, there's a lot of good decks. Again, if you play things like Crime Lord, Prize Possession, you can get rid of a lot of stuff, but it depends how quick their stuff comes out and how quick they pop off. If Poe can get fast hands out there really quick and get a hit and run, it could get gross real fast. So it depends on how their hand draws are. There's only 30 cards in the deck, but I have seen a lot of hand draws get bad, you mulligan, and you still get a bad hand draw. It happens a lot. People say, "Oh, then you have a bad deck." No, I'm sorry. I've seen many good players do that, and they end up that the right cards is you want, you have a Crime Lord in your starting hand, a couple other things. You're like, you know what, Crime Lord is too early because they could take it out of my hand. I'm probably gonna toss it back. You draw again. You get 2 Crime Lords. I've seen it. It happens. Even though they say it's a small amount, but there is that smaller a chance now that you're gonna get the same stuff again. So that being said, that's one thing I see that's gonna happen with Maz. Everything else, I think there's only one left I'm thinking of that people really were upset with. No one uses Trader. I feel like people need to use Trader more. Pre-Inspection is great. Rise Again. People complain about it, but I think it's more so the fact that there's nothing for a hero like this. I mean, there is Second Chance, which is cheaper. Whoops. There is that's cheaper, but at the same time, let's close. At the same time, there is Second Chance, but the fact that this heals you 5 and then gives you upgrade, I think it's fair for the points. I don't think there's no reason to complain about it, to be honest with you. It does suck. If you're getting it for free somehow, I really don't know how you can get that for free. I'm sure someone will tell me right now how, but I think that's the only one left. Long Con, Hold On, Never Tell Me the Odds, Suppression, Meditate, Parry, Fast Hands. People do complain about fast hands. I've seen people argue about it because they played a Poe Maz deck. That's when they're arguing about it. They're mad at that time about it because it's not fair that fast hands should be on Poe, and it's not fair he put 2 out there and this and this and this. I get that. Because it does suck. Because the game, what I found really fun about the game was that it was so quick and fast. And not fast as in the fast game, but my response to your response. My response to your response. Fast hands, force speed, all that kind of took that away. But force speed, at least know you got to roll it out there and you have to land on it. Fast hands, you automatically get it. So people want a cost on fast hands, or they wanted to make sure it's unique. And either of those, I can't really argue with. I mean, they're not going to ruin decks and they're not going to break decks by doing that. So that's something small that can make some of the people happy. But to be honest, if they don't change it, we'll just live with it. It's not, I mean, a lot of people get to use it since it's neutral. So in all fairness, it just sucks with the matches that they're putting it in, or the decks they're putting it in, are making it feel bad. But even though everyone with yellow can basically use it anyways. Oh, and I know one other thing people are getting irritated with, but it's with the last thing I was going to bring up. Basically, Snap. The fact that this guy locks up the game, but I think with the low cost of 9 to 12, it's okay. He only has 8 health, so you just got to get rid of him. But the fact that you have to have a resource to claim it is a pretty big deal. And I see players that do use him, just keep him in play no matter what. And it's smart, it's a technique, but the only problem is, I think that's all fine. I think he works great, but what makes it gross is what a lot of people I see win games with over and over and over and over again. And that is planetary uprising. It's gross. It's evil looking. It looks like Chewbacca with a Nike shoe coming kicking at you, even though I think it's just a club. I don't know. But after you clear the battlefield, force the opponent to deal 2 damage to their characters, distributed as they wish. So, this happens a lot in Poe decks. This also happens a lot in Snap decks with Maz or Baze, any of them. So here's what they do. With Poe you don't spend money really, because you're tossing in weapons and stuff because of his ability. You have money, so by the time second turn starts or second round starts, you're able to, if this gets in your hand, you're able to throw it out there immediately. It puts huge pressure on people playing against these Poe Maz decks. It puts huge pressure on them because you're on a timer now, and on top of it, you're getting so much damage from Poe Maz. Planetary Uprising is icing on the cake for them. But now we got people playing like Poe Snap or something like that. Snap will make it where you cannot claim that base, and you have no choice. I've sat there with no money, no cards, and you can't do anything, and you just got to keep saying pass until they are done, and you can't claim. The ability to not let you claim is really rough, and I understand that. Again, I understand the card. It makes sense. I do think it should have cost more for how strong it is. It is very strong, especially when you're like a Palpatine by yourself, or if you're the last character. It's so strong. But the biggest thing I've heard about it is everyone's saying it needs to be unique. That's an easy fix, and that I could get behind. I mean, of course, you have 2 in your deck, because now there's things to get rid of it. I've been able to get rid of it successfully a couple times, but it is tough because you pay for it, and then you have to ditch 2 cards with Sabotage. But that's a good chunk of your hand, and if you know 30-card deck, you really don't like getting rid of anything. Everything has there for a purpose, and everything needs to be used right. So with that being said, I do put Sabotage in there just in case I play against someone with Planetary Uprising, or any support that I want to get rid of. But this one is the biggest nuisance, because with 2 out, they literally claim, you guys fight a little bit, they claim, and then the beginning of their next turn, they just claim. And it gets to the point where you don't even get to play, because they just know that if they claim this turn, and you have maybe 1 guy left with a couple dice or whatever, you're not going to do much. Next one, they're going to claim, and you're going to take 4 damage no matter what. So if you have no answers to heal or ways to stop damage from coming, you're screwed. So that's the only thing I don't like about Planetary Uprising, is the fact that it doesn't let you play, really. And stopping, it's almost like saying you can't resolve a die, or you can't pitch a card to re-roll. I understand adding a tax on it, like Vent does, where you have to pitch 2 or something like that. I guess it's kind of like Snap saying you have to pay, but cards you normally have, so I feel like it's tricky. But with Planetary Uprising, I feel like the ability to take away someone's chance to claim is crazy sometimes, and you're just literally sitting there letting someone play the game by themselves. So I do get it. It sucks on its own, I think. I mean, I've used it in some games of mine. I think it's dumb, but I'll use it because it's dumb. If they got rid of it, I'd be fine. To be honest with you, something that doesn't lock people down and people could just play. That's the main problem, is people need to just be able to play. People need to be able to roll dice, go back and forth, back and forth. But the biggest thing people have been saying is make it unique. Because when they're claiming and making 4 damage automatically, it's pretty gross. But I mean, unique could work. I mean, there's a lot of supports that are unique already. So
maybe once they see more playtesting with it, or people keep complaining. I mean, again, it kind of falls in the Poe Maz deck, so people are complaining about everything in there in general, but this is just icing on their cake with a top of what damage they are doing. These come out and just ruin it for you. And Snap now locking you up if they get rid of all your money. Planetary Uprising is the key and the way to go. So again, that's the way I think some of those things are going to be handled, if they are handled. I think some are not. I do expect us to get maybe about 2 to 3 changes. People are going to cry and get mad, say we shouldn't have a ban list, but it happens. They've had it before with Netrunner. They've had it with Game of Thrones. They've done it with all their games. They're not new to this. They do know what they're doing, but they also know there's room for error and room to see combos coming out. We're only in the second set right now, so we have to remember things are going to pop up really quick for us. We're going to notice things quicker probably than them. Much as they probably play tested it, we probably play it more than any of them. So give it time, see what happens. If nothing changes, I just believe Poe Maz will basically reign supreme until the next set, and it may even get better with more things for Poe to use. But there are ways to get around it and beat it. Like I said, if they get the perfect pulls, perfect setups, they most likely will not lose the game. But again, if you get your own perfect setups, and I'm able to take a 5-cost Ewing out of your hand with Play, and then I have a Crime Lord and Ace in the Hole. I kept calling it She's All In during a game. Ace in the Hole. Then I have a chance to maybe get rid of one of those guys, and I can actually take you down. So, I mean, it's all there, and you can get rid of it. But, yes, there is some unfairness going on. And will it be changed? I don't know. It may or may not. I don't know. But I'm just giving my opinion on what I think what might happen and what I think about it. So, if you guys feel anything different, put it out there. And, you know, people are probably going to hate me sometimes, like me sometimes. I like how, I haven't read this, but I like how a lot of these things where they type you how to play it, a lot of times they say, then make sure you get this in your hand, and then you do this, and then make sure this comes back to your hand. I'm like, dang, there's a lot of things that you can't predict well enough. It's just kind of goofy. But yeah, I'm not saying this guy did, but this is something I'll definitely look into. And then, oh, look at that. 2 planetary uprisings. 2 Ewings. But yeah, so well, that's what I was going to talk about. Hopefully we'll get more content. Keep going. I always try to do these YouTube pages and podcasts I'm working on and all kinds of stuff, but it's just a lot. Running my own comic shop and then having my son and you know, please and make sure my wife's happy with everything. It's a lot of stuff, but I do want to focus on this a lot. I do love these games. I love HeroClix to death. Destiny, I'm full behind. I want it to succeed. I want players to make it grow. No saltiness, even though this seems like all I did was spit salt out today. But I do understand where people are coming from about that are complaining. But again, hopefully we'll get more videos up, and that's basically it for now. Take it easy.